Okay, so today's lecture is a continuation of what we had from previous lecture. Remember last time we talked about the general concepts of sustainability. And sustainability is a very commonly used word now in many parts of our society. And so today we are going to apply some of those principles that we discussed specifically towards food production. Okay? So to recap, sustainability, I said that sustainability is always thinking of today and thinking also of tomorrow. So sustainability is something that we have always practiced. Our ancestors have always practiced them for a long time, but it's only now that we apply the word sustainability. Okay? And only now that sustainability becomes more and more important because of the challenges that we face in our society today. So this is the definition, the working definition that I gave last time. So the ability to meet the needs of today. We have to provide for today and at the same time think about tomorrow. So simply said, sustainability is just to make sure that we have resources, food, water, environmental resources that will continue for so many years to come. Okay? So this is the thinking that I want you to remember all the time. Sustainability can be applied to many aspects of our daily life, not only to farming, not only to agriculture. We have talked about sustainability on campus. How to make our campus more sustainable. Okay? So we have some good practices that we need to follow and put into our attention to make sure that we achieve our goals. Sustainability can also be practiced at home in our daily life, in our day-to-day event. Okay? So anyway, sustainability is a very broad topic, but for our purpose today, we are going to apply these concepts into food production, specifically agriculture. So I will show you this slide very quick. So these are some of the things that we talk about when we mention sustainability for food production. And I will go through each one briefly and as we go along. So what is sustainable agriculture? It is just a system, an integrated system of production using animals and plants, crops, animals, farm animals, that will last over a long time and satisfy human needs and to preserve our natural resources. Very simple, very practical definition, if you will. Okay? So one aspect of sustainability is finance, economic viability of farms. You cannot have a sustainability when you just keep the forest, you just provide food, but the financial viability of farms. You need to have a profit. You need to keep the farms going. That's the way to keep them into the future. Enhancing the quality of life for people. Okay? Enhancing the quality of life for people. We mentioned this before, that people are one of the three components of sustainability. The others being environment, and the third one being financial stability. Okay, so we use principles in sustainable agriculture. We use principles that take into consideration ecology, take into consideration conservation. So remember this one. I want to show you this diagram again. There's always three parts of sustainability that come into interplay. So again, another diagram here I made So there has to be 3 parts. When you lack one part, then that is not sustainability anymore. Okay, so remember 3 parts. Whether in agriculture, whether in family, whether on campus, whether any parts of human endeavor, when you talk about sustainability, you need to consider 3 parts. So let's try to apply some of the things of sustainability into practice, into practical application. As I told you, sustainability has been practiced by our ancestors for a long, long time, but we just did not give the name sustainability. It's only now that we give the name sustainability. So what is sustainability? It is simply common sense. It is simply good practices, a collection of good practices. For example, in farming, when we talk about sustainable farming, we talk about pest management. You know, pest management. Insects, bad insects attacking the plants, some rats and some other harmful animals eating your rice, eating your... That's a problem. So how to handle that sustainability? I want to introduce to you the term integrated pest management, IPM. Very common in the tropical countries, IPM. So IPM simply means you need to have biological control. You need to control the bad animals that come into your farm. You need to change the behavior of people so that they will not invite the bad insects and bad animals into the farm. And you need to change the habitat design. You need to do some kind of changes in the farm in order to prevent these pests from coming. In integrated pest management, we talk about biological control. Biological control. We use one organism, good organism, presumably, to control another organism. Usually, it's a good organism, aggressive species that will kill an harmful species. Is that good or bad? It's free. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do this. But there are some risks and there are some benefits, of course. In everything that we do, there's always this benefit and risk. Benefit, species are sourced from nature. No need to import, no need to pay so much money. Just try to introduce this aggressive species into your farm. But the risk is these aggressive species can probably kill also beneficial species, which can cause ecological imbalance. Remember, our farm should always try to achieve balance. But if there are some species that will dominate, then it is possible that this balance could be affected. This is one aspect of sustainable agriculture. Another one I would introduce, again, this is very, very common sense. It's what we call rotational grazing. Rotation means go around. Grazing means eating. So if you have a farm like this is a top view of the farm. If you have a farm like this and you have sheep, you want the sheep to go around the farm, not just focus on one part of the farm. Why? If you do that, all the grass in that area will be gone. So you want to rotate them in order to do this and go to different times. So this drawing, so if the grass is tall, then you can ask the sheep, hey, come here and eat here. But when the grass becomes low, already short, after eating, then you said, okay, stop, rest. Very common sense. That is part of sustainable agriculture. Okay, another one that talks about sustainable agriculture, soil conservation. Soil is very important. Without the soil, we cannot have agriculture. Well, now there is such a thing as without soil, just water, hydroponics. We'll talk about that. But soil is very important. From the time of the long time history, there are so many things that affect the soil. Heavy rainfall can affect the soil, erosion, compaction, all of these, okay? It affects the soil productivity. So researchers throughout history, they have thought of so many things in order to stop those problems. And these are some of them, okay? We will take up one or two examples. Terraces, for example. So if the mountain is sloping, the water cannot stay there. So what they do, the old people, they put some terraces, like steps, in order to conserve the soil in one place. Okay? This is what we call soil conservation. Okay. We also do cover crops. Cover, just cover. So what kind of crops do we use to cover? Cover means to protect the soil from the elements. Very simple. So some of these are like this. So these are nodules. These are roots of certain plants that contain some beneficial bacteria, and these can add so to the nutrients. Look at this picture. If you have a soil with a lot of cover, with a lot of plants on the top, it is essentially protected from the sun, protected from the rain. Okay? Common sense. Without a cover, then of course the sun and the rain can just do anything into it, and it can in fact decrease the top soil. So this is very, very common sense. Okay? So sustainable agriculture is really common sense. So this is another picture. When you put some crops here, cover, these are some of the things that can happen. It can improve the health of the soil. It can retain the nutrients. It can control erosion. And it can reduce the number of weeds. Very, very practical. These things are not known only today, but these things have been known for centuries. But it's only now that we label them as sustainable agriculture. So sustainable agriculture is not a new thing. It's been around for a long, long time. Okay, so aside from soil, another important aspect of agriculture is water. Okay? We need water in order to support the growth of the plants. So agriculture, do you know, agriculture is the largest user of water resources. Not drinking, but agriculture. Okay? Irrigation is very important. This is a very big issue, especially for plants that need water all the time, like rice. Irrigation is a very, very important issue. You need a flat land in order to have water. You cannot plant the rice on the slope because the water cannot stay on the slope. Okay? So irrigation is a very important aspect. Now, because agriculture is the largest user of water resources, man has to find out some ways how to make use of the water wisely, how to conserve water. And recently people have tried to recycle the water, to put the water into many, many uses instead of just letting it flow here in the irrigation canal. So I will introduce this one, for example, aquaponics. Aquaponics is a very, it's a growing, popular practice using water to support the growth of plants without soil. Now this water is not exactly original water. This can be recycled water. Okay? So this is one way. This is another example of what sustainable agriculture should be. Okay? Okay, so another one, yes. crop and landscape diversity, so we want to have a rotation also. Crop rotation. What do you mean by that? So for example, in 1 year, you have 4 areas of the farm, right? 4 areas of the farm. During the year 1, you plant leafy vegetables. In the second area, fruits. In the third area, roots. Root crops. Yeah? Like the daikon, like carrots. And then in the fourth area, you put the legume. Now legumes are very important because they provide some nitrogen, because they have some nodules. Now in the second year, you try to change it. So you try to rotate it. So in the first area, there are leaves, but now next year, fruits. So you change it. You change it. You rotate it. In the third year, you rotate it. You change it. Why? Because these different fruits, leaves, legumes, okay, they provide different things to the soil. Okay? So for example, legumes provide nutrients, adds nutrients, but the leafy plants, the fruits and the roots remove the nutrients. So in this case, there is a very nice natural system of addition minus, addition minus, addition minus. So this is what I call the crop rotation, which is very, very important. Okay? Again, very, very practical. I'm not saying that crop rotation was only invented 10 years ago. No. Crop rotation has been around for centuries. Okay? But it's only now that we label them as sustainable agriculture. Okay, so we talk about environment, improving the farm environment. We talk about safe application of fertilizer and management of pests. Okay? These will benefit the farm, the environment. This will also benefit the farmer. The third aspect, remember, finance, the money. Money is important. Okay? It's not only important to keep the farm alive. It's not only important to keep the farmers healthy, but we need also to feed the stomach of the farmers, of the producers. So that's why we will talk about the third aspect, which is marketing. Marketing. So when the farm produces these products, they have to be sold in the market, but it should be at a good price. It should be at a price when the efforts of the farmers are rewarded appropriately. So this is what I said. Marketing is part of sustainability, and the word here is a fair trade. Okay? Maybe some of you have heard of this word, fair trade. Fair trade. Now, I will explain to you an example. If you go buy 1 cup of coffee, now the coffee comes from the farm. Okay, so there's a lot of work going on in the coffee. So if you are buying a regular cup of coffee from the regular store, according to many studies, if this cup of coffee is 100 yen, only 3 yen will go to the farmer. But if you think about it, the farmer works so hard, and I probably difficult to imagine, because how many of you have been farmers? Maybe not. Okay, but in this case, in the regular cup of coffee, is 3 yen. 3% only of the income goes to the farmer. But in a fair trade cup of coffee, it's higher. It's a 15 yen. Okay. Okay. I will explain why. Why is this like this? And the explanation can be better understood if I show this to you, and with what I call coffee supply chain. So from the farm to the store, from the store to you, there is what we call a chain of events, coffee chain. Now, in a conventional coffee chain, in a normal, regular coffee chain, the small farmer sells the coffee to the big farmer and middleman, and then it goes to the processor, it goes to the exporter, it goes to the broker, and then it goes to the coffee company, okay, distributor, finally it goes to the store, and finally it goes to you. So the chain is very long and the chain has many steps. So you can imagine in every step of the chain, there is a profit every step of the way. Now, in a fair trade coffee, it's somewhat different. From the farm, it goes to a cooperative. So a cooperative is like an association of different farmers coming together. And with that, they go to the company, and the company can accept their coffee in a higher price. And then from the equal exchange, the company, it goes to the store, and from the store, it goes to you. So you can compare the two steps. Here, so many steps. Here, few steps. The few steps means few profit taking along the way. So this is a typical fair trade coffee chain. So in this case, the small farmer will get more money compared to the regular coffee chain. The money is small because the profit has been distributed to so many people along the way. Okay? This is coffee. Very quick, I will show you another one. Maybe more understandable to you. Banana. Banana is very common here in Japan. Okay? Now, we always want to buy banana. I mean, I know Japanese people, they like banana a lot. Okay? And we always look for banana that's very cheap. Of course, that's practical. Now, here in this case, this is a bad value chain. Why? Because here, the plantation worker, the farmer only gets 2 cents out of $1. Okay? But in a regular, in a fair trade banana, like this, fair trade banana, the farmers get a higher percentage. So that means the banana that is sold in the market, the more expensive one, and then it has a label fair trade. Maybe same quality as the regular banana, but it's a little bit more expensive. Why? Because some of the profit will go to the farmers, to support the farmers. The supermarket will not get so much compared to the other one. So the next time you go to the supermarket, maybe you can try fair trade banana. Okay? So here, according to this diagram, the cheap banana will threaten the farmer's future, and we know why. Okay? Cheap banana. So the next time you go to the supermarket, there is one fair trade, there's one regular, so you can start thinking like, oh, which one should I buy? Okay? And then maybe some of you will ask, why is this banana so expensive compared to this? They look the same, but this one says fair trade. What do you think? So it is our own decision to come up with our choices. Now here, this one is just, this is a survey in Japan, 2010, an old survey. And in 2010, in this survey, you can see that the Japanese consumers still are not so sure. 50% perhaps want to support fair trade products. This is 2010. And I think now more and more people in Japan are supporting fair trade products. Not only banana, not only coffee, but many other products, especially products produced by farmers in, for example, because of the earthquake in the northeast Japan, the economy there has been very badly affected. So they need to have more income, and the Japanese government has some program to encourage Japanese around the country to help buy products from the Tohoku region in order to support the economy there. So this is, again, fair trade, if you ask me. So, this one is growing. Perhaps 1, 2, and this one is 58% is positive versus less than half negative. Okay, so we talk about agriculture, we talk about some of the applications of sustainable agriculture. I want to introduce very quickly what is going on in the sea, what is going on in the aquatic environment. And this one, I've shown this diagram, very famous diagram from FAO, okay? And the dark blue here represents wild capture. Wild capture means fish from the sea using fishing boat. The light blue here represents aquaculture. This is aquatic products coming from human efforts, human facilities, aquaculture. Okay, so and here you can see that right now the blue line, the dark blue is already here, meaning the supply of fish is already saturated. I mean it has reached its limit already. Meaning to say, even though you put more fishing boats into the sea, they cannot catch any more fish because the fish has reached the limit already. Whereas aquaculture is still growing. Why? Because we have not yet reached the capacity for breeding the fish, breeding some of these aquaculture on the land-based tanks and other human-assisted facilities. So what is aquaculture again? I mentioned this before. Farming of fish, farming of oysters, clams, mussels, shellfish, farming of aquatic plants, seaweeds, for example. Okay? And it's one of the world's fastest growing sector. Now, since it is one of the world's fastest, this one needs to be taken care of. This one needs to have a very sustainable practice in order for this resource to last a long, long time. Remember? Fisheries. Many years ago, people really do not or did not care about fisheries. People just catch. In many countries in Southeast Asia, in many countries in developing countries, especially, the concern towards fishery is not so much. Because people think, oh, as long as we go out to the sea and catch fish, we are okay. No, we are reaching the point that the more we go, the less we catch. So this is very, very critical. So one of the hopes would be aquaculture. Okay? One of the hopes would be aquaculture. The sea has been depleted, but the land-based aquaculture still has promising effects for us. So when we talk about aquaculture, we talk about two things: intensive and extensive. Okay? Intensive. Intensive means these things. Okay? So when we talk about intensive aquaculture, intensive from the word intense, intensity, intense. Okay? Intense. Strong, intense. So intensive means high labor cost. You need more people to help you. So if you need more people to help you, you need to pay more salary. High costs, it means you need to put many other facilities in order to put up your intensive aquaculture. Now, if you have high cost, what will happen? the product will be more expensive because it's high cost. You want to recover the cost that you put. Now, if you have high costs inside the environment, you will also have high oxygen exchange. Inside the ponds, for example, because you put in a lot of machine, a lot of equipment, you will have a high oxygen water exchange inside, which is good for the fish and other things. And you will have a complete diet. So your fish will be very genki because they have complete food. So you will have a high return. Your income will be high because your harvest is high. So this is intensive. On the other hand, extensive. Extensive is the opposite. Extensive is low labor, no need of many people to help you, no need of many expensive equipment, low cost. So because of this one, it has a low water exchange, not so good for the fish, and it uses natural food. You don't really need to import and to buy many of these artificial food. So you save money. So one of the things that happen is you have a low return. Okay? So if you compare intensive and extensive, there are good and bad things in each. Okay? So what is the secret here? There has to be a balance. So today, some people, they want to have semi-intensive, like here in the middle. So not so intensive, not so extensive, but somewhere in the middle, they call it semi-intensive. Okay. I want to show you this diagram very quick. Again, this is extensive here, low energy, intensive, very high energy. But the most important information in this picture is environmental impact. Extensive has a lower environmental impact because it uses less resources, it uses less costs, it is a less environmental impact compared to intensive, high yield, high capital, high labor costs, high environmental impact. Now again, we have to consider, do we want high or do we want low? Again, some people want to stay in the middle. Okay. Now, just to show you very quick some pictures of intensive. So today there are so many of these intensive sea farming. Okay. Very quick. Now here, this is a city in China, and outside of China, these cities, they have these very big fish cages. Fish cages like this have environmental impact. Okay? I think I may have shown this before, but one of the things that is a problem is that many of these fish, they give a lot of feed. Now, many people think that the more food you give to the fish, the faster the fish will grow. Not all the time, because we have a limit. The fish has a limit. Okay? Some of you have some aquarium at home, right? You have some aquarium pet fish at home. If you put a lot of food on the inside the aquarium, what will happen? Most of the time, first of all, what will happen? The water become polluted. And then number two, the fish will start to die because the fish cannot control its feeding habit. As long as there is a food, it will keep on eating. You know, especially goldfish, they eat until they die too much. Now, many of the farmers think, fish farmers, they think that when you put a lot of feed into the fish will grow fast. Not all the time. What will happen instead is that many of these food chemicals added into the fish cage will become waste at the bottom. And the waste will contribute towards pollution, will contribute towards environmental impact in this case. So here, this just 5 problems with fish cage: waste, escape, diseases, the use of toxic chemicals. Number 5, fish feed. This is a major problem. So we have to educate the farmers. Hey, do not put too much food. It will not let the fish grow too fast anyway. It will just die. It will just be wasted. It will just make the environment more polluted. Now, today there is what we call offshore mariculture. Now, when aquaculture started, people start to cut the mangroves and make some ponds on the side of the on the beach. Okay, but now that is already discouraged, because we all know when you cut the mangroves and convert them into fish pond, that is bad for the mangroves. Mangroves, we realize, are very rich areas for many fish. They are the breeding ground, they are the nursery of fish. So if you cut all those trees to make into fish pond, it's not very good. So today, people are going away from the shore. People are going away from the beaches in order to make their aquaculture. So that's why they call it offshore mariculture. So the fish cages are in the deep sea, but not below, but on the top of the deep sea, offshore, and they reduce the impact to the ocean floor. Okay? Now, this is very challenging, very expensive. I will show you a picture very quick. This is an example of offshore mariculture. Very big. Europe, in China, they have a lot of these ones. Okay? And here, this is floating on the top, and they release a lot of fish inside. This is offshore mariculture. And offshore mariculture is related to something like this. Okay? So if you have a circle with a lot of fish inside, of course the fish inside, they cannot hunt for food because they are inside. They cannot go out and catch some food. So you have to introduce some fish feed. Now, these fish, when they consume a lot of food, they also produce a lot of waste. Okay, we know that. Now, this waste is represented by the brown, can be used for something else. Like, for example, in this example, in this case, you put some oyster culture, and these oyster can benefit from the waste produced by the fish. And some of these brown waste can also go here, and this is seaweed culture. Seaweed can also absorb some of this waste. By absorbing the waste, the seaweed are happy because the waste are their food. At the same time, the marine environment will be more clean because many of these waste are absorbed. Now, some of these waste can also be absorbed down here. So there is some kind of a circle, and I mentioned this before. Remember IMTA? Remember IMTA? What is IMTA? IMTA is integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. Meaning to say, multi-trophic. Multi means many. Trophic, stages, many stages. So in this case, this is the seaweed stage, the oyster stage, the fish stage. So there are 3 stages here. So integrated. We know the word integrated, right? Mix, combine. Okay? Integrated arts and sciences. Okay? Integrated. So integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. Multi-trophic, many layers of aquaculture. IMTA. IMTA is one of the most promising things that has come around so far. Okay, now we talk about the aquaculture I want to call your attention to the fact that the eating of seafood, the eating of fish, the eating of other seafood is rising. But the problem is our marine resources are depleted. So comparing now and future, 45% of the world's population consume seafoods. It will rise to about 62% when it reaches 2030. So you can already imagine, you can already foresee that there will be a growth and there will be demand. So time to think of applying sustainable practices into our aquaculture systems. But there are many, many challenges. It's not very simple to just apply all those sustainable practices. For example, we know very much climate change is around us. Climate change affects everything that we do. Human activities, they affect farm systems, they affect aquaculture systems. It will be a serious problem. Yeah? The typhoons are getting stronger, the droughts are getting more severe, the floods are becoming more common. So it will affect one way or another. No matter how much sustainable practices we have, it will affect. So we have to prepare for that. So that brings us to food security. Because if we don't have sustainable aquaculture, sustainable food production, then food security can be a problem. So briefly, according to the Committee on World Food Security 2009, this definition is interesting because it is very perfectionist, you see. Food security is when all people, at all times, have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food. All people, all time, should have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets the dietary needs and food preferences so that they will have an active and healthy life. That is the very, very perfect definition of food security. Is this possible? Maybe in the future, but this is our goal. So, very long definition. So, I'd like to simplify it. Food security simply means, do you have food on your plate today? Okay. We may not realize it, but in many, many developing countries, this is a very important question. For many families, this is a very important question. Here in Japan, we probably don't think of it very seriously. Here in Japan, we say, oh, we need food, let's go to the supermarket. We need food, I'm hungry, let's open the risotto. Not in many developing countries. So in that case, they don't have the food security. So do you have food on your plate today? Do you have confidence that there will be food on your plate tomorrow, next day, next month, next year? So this is food security. So this one will also depend on our sustainable food production practices. Okay? So I'm trying to connect one with another one and try to give you a whole picture. So the main challenge in the future, as I've said, okay, this is my final slide. The main challenge in the future is not only to produce more. Of course, we need to produce more. Okay? But that is not the only challenge. But we have, the other challenge is to do it in a sustainable way. Okay? We need to produce more, yes, but we need to do it in a sustainable way. What's the use of producing more, and then you also consume more, and then you don't think about tomorrow, you don't think about the future. We have to have all these, take care of the soil, take care of the environment, and we can reach our goal of sustainable agriculture. So, to recap, when you talk about sustainability, there's always three parts, okay? Three circles, always. You take care of the people. The people are happy, the people have enough to eat, the people have a comfortable life. You also have to take care of the environment. While the people are having a comfortable life, while the people are happy, they have a good life, make sure the environment is also in good condition. Make sure the environment is also preserved. Make sure the environment is also very well preserved. And at the same time, do not forget, number three, people should have money in the pocket. People should have financial stability. Now, if one of these is missing, remember the triangle. If one of them is missing, then we are missing sustainability. Okay? So this is the very important message I want you to remember. Okay? This is my take-home message for you. Long after you get out of this classroom, I want these things to be remembered by you. I want this diagram to be in your mind all the time. Okay? Okay, so are there any comments or questions so far?
So
okay, first time
you give us some examples like Inter, Fairtrade, who is working on that?
Who is working on that?
Like government or
yes. For Fairtrade, for example, there are a lot of NGOs, there's a lot of farmers groups who are promoting, and not only in the farm level, but in the society level, many NGOs and some governments are promoting fair trade and educating the people. Schools have a role. For example, I'm telling you about fair trade. You can go home to your families, you have children, you can tell them about fair trade and the reason why these things are there. So sustainability is not only work of the farmer side, but I think it is a concerted effort for all aspects of society, all sectors of society, because the benefits would be not only to the farmers, but it's for the whole well-being, you know. Like for example, in Japan, okay? Japan, we have very good peace and order condition in Japan. We have very stable society in Japan. Okay. Now, why is Japan interested to help countries in Southeast Asia? Why is Japan interested to give donation and scholarships to Southeast Asia? Because it wants Southeast Asia to have good people. Japan wants Southeast Asia to have a stable society. Because if something happens to Southeast Asia, something bad happens to Southeast Asia, it will affect Japan. Look at what's happening in Europe now. There's war in Syria. There's a collapse of farming systems. People cannot farm anymore. So what happened? Refugee. Everybody running away from Syria wants to go to Europe. So what will happen in Europe? Europe will be so crowded already. Too many people. Okay, so this is a concerted effort. Okay, so I think that's an extreme example, but this is all tied up to social stability, financial stability. If that condition does not exist in your home country, then you have no choice. You want to get out of your country. You want to go to somewhere. Okay, now Southeast Asia is okay, but if Southeast Asia becomes bad, what happens? Many Southeast Asia will come to Japan. Will come to the richer countries, Korea. So this is just an extreme example. Okay, thank you. Any other things? I will, yes, please, Roland.
I just wanted to make some few additions on sustainable agriculture.
Yes.
On the integrated pest management, IPM, it's really a very important concept
Yes.
nowadays in sustainable agriculture.
Yes, yes.
And for it to be used, there are two major concepts that are considered in integrated pest management. First of all, the word management itself as opposed to control. These days, you don't control pests. Instead, they want to avoid elimination of all sorts of pests, considering that some insects are beneficial.
That's right.
Yeah, so they want to manage pest population to tolerable levels.
That's right.
You should still have some insects, but to tolerable levels. So the management techniques should only be applied when the pest population reach what they call an economic threshold.
Sure.
So there is what they call the economic injury level,
Yeah, yeah.
which is the smallest population of insects that can cause
Yes.
an economic damage,
Uh-huh.
and an economic threshold. Yeah, so an economic threshold is now the level at which pest management techniques should be applied. So they want to use a holistic management that, using all kinds of strategies.
Correct.
It's not necessarily an avoidance of chemical or controls. No, you can use pesticides, but they want to use all available techniques.
Correct.
Use biological, use
Yes.
chemical,
Yes.
all those, so that you should manage insect population to tolerable levels. That's the addition I wanted to make.
Thank you.
And on crop rotation, I think, can you go to the slide of crop rotation?
Yeah.
I wanted to make some few additions as well.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So on crop rotation, one of the additions, one of the major considerations when you are doing crop rotation should consider the rooting systems of the crops. For example, the challenge when you just consider that this is maybe a root crop, this is maybe a fruit crop, this is a leaf crop, there can be a challenge when, for example, I'll talk of tomato. Tomato is a fruit crop, and I'll talk of maybe Irish potato. Irish potato is a root crop. These two crops, if you follow them, say this year tomato, the next year Irish potato, what's going to happen is that these crops belong to the same family and they share the same diseases.
True.
Yes, they share the same diseases. So that kind of crop rotation may not be effective because of host specificity of the diseases. The diseases that attacked tomato last year are also going to attack
potato. Yes.
this year. So it should consider the host specificities of the crops as a consideration. 1, 2. It should also consider the rooting depth of the plants. So if you plant a shallow rooted crop this year, next year plant a deep rooted crop that can be able to take up moisture from very deep levels, that can be able to take up nutrients from very deep levels of the soil and bring it to the upper layers where shallow rooted plants can be able to use.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the
Thank
few
you.
additions I wanted to make.
Well, thank you very much. I didn't want to go into the very details.
Yes.
Because, for example, I should tell you, IPM, for example, Integrated Pest Management, that can be a one whole year course. So we're just trying to introduce to you, and if you want to pursue the topic further, I will encourage you to read some more and maybe to take up a class like this. But you have a very good point. Control versus management. One is more expensive than the other. And another thing that is mentioned, integrated means several approaches are used. And then another term that I want to introduce, synergistic effect. Synergistic effect. I think we talked about that last time. synergistic effect is 1 plus 1 equals 3, not 1 plus 1 equals 2. So when you have two things coming together, the combined effect is more than the sum of the parts. This is also very important. Okay, but anyway, thank you very much. I didn't want to go into the detail because we don't have a lot of time. So anyway, I will throw this question to the class. And I've been saying all along that ever since the time of, this is a picture of Egyptians. Ever since the time of 2, 3, 4,000 years ago, whether they know it or not, people are actually practicing sustainable agriculture, but we don't have the name sustainable agriculture. So the concept is really ancient concept. It's been used by early civilizations. It's been used by successful civilizations in Africa, in Asia, and practiced by farmers centuries ago. But why do you think sustainable food production is a very urgent issue today? You have sustainable practice before, but so what is different today that is not found many years ago? Yeah?
Yeah, we know that there were lots of practices sustainable agriculture, but considering the increase of the population,
there we go.
We expect more production from the same land as they were getting, and also the mechanization of the agriculture with the maximum disturbance of the soil, because in the ancient time they were having the minimum disturbance of the soil, using traditional plowing equipment, and also with the exceed use of the chemical fertilizers, and the residue in the soil, and also the economic situation, the socio-economic situation of the world population is increasing, and they're consuming more food compared to that time. So we need to consider more the sustainable agriculture than that time. And also the food diversification. In the ancient time, people were relying just on grains, but nowadays fruits, vegetables, nuts, and other kinds of agriculture products. So this is why it's getting
more critical, very urgent. So you mentioned population. Population is growing, whereas many centuries ago, population is more manageable. Environmental destruction is increasing. So all the more sustainable food production becomes a more critical issue. Our lifestyle is changing. Okay? So in different countries, we come from different countries. I think we look at sustainable food production in different angles. Yeah?
Yes, I'd like to add that he already mentioned some points, and in addition I want to add that the biologists and environmentalists are predicted due to also the warming the environment, such as the global warming.
Correct.
At the ancient time, the environment was saturated. There was no global warming, or the environment was favorable to grow plants, and plenty of supply was available due to the grazing pressure and also human pressure. The world was warmer, so it's not a good suitable position for growing the plants. And we are losing our resources, such as our resources from the environment. So That's why sustainable is important for up to next 50 years or for the next centuries. We have to think about the balanced population and also think about the mechanization, because traditional work is more laborious, more time consuming. That's why you also mentioned that's extensive and intensive. So at the ancient era, it was extensive, means the traditional. So we are going to mechanize, and we are introducing some new technique so that we can produce our crops very early. We can give a good yielding variety, and such as agriculture, such as the salt tolerance variety, and water tolerance. Different territories. There are different geographical features, such as in coastal, we should have the salt tolerance. In case of drought region, we have to the drought tolerance, and in case of floodplain, flood affected areas, we have to water tolerance. So this is important to maintain the sustainable.
So far we have most of the students who contributed, you come from developing countries, okay? So I suppose you speak from the perspective of the developing countries. How about from developed countries? Japan, for example. How serious is sustainable food production in Japan or in America? What do you think? Okay, yeah, you first. Go ahead.
Non-grain is a big factor for promoting plant disease.
Okay, plant disease.
Reason of abnormal weather is air pollution.
Okay. Yeah, we mentioned. Okay, abnormal weather. Okay. What else?
Which was promoted every big economic country, for example, China, Japan, and United America. And abnormal weather will increase more and more. Abnormal weather will increase due to economic development more and more. And so we should do crop rotation to reduce risks from extremes in weather.
Okay, the point is the changing weather will affect both developed countries and developing countries. Okay, it does not select. Okay, but the impact would be more on the developing countries, I imagine, because these countries are less prepared compared to the developed countries. Okay,
I think that food waste is also one.
Yes, we mentioned this one.
Because the United States or Japan, developed countries want to buy much more food, but we throw away some portion of food. But in the ASEAN countries, many countries cannot buy enough food in rural cities. So,
Thank you very much. In connection with food, I want to address this one in the next point. If you go to the supermarket, you buy a basket of vegetables from the supermarket, and you buy also a basket of similar vegetables from local farmers market. What do you think? Will there be difference? Why or why not?
Yeah, so if we go through today's lecture, so we'll definitely see that if we buy a basket of vegetables from a local market, and if we buy vegetables from a supermarket, there will be a huge price difference. If we buy it from a supermarket, the price will be much more higher than that for local farmer market. But if we go through it, it will come to the fair trade. So if we buy from local farmers market, so there will be not so much staying. The money we give to the for the vegetables, it will directly go to the farmer. But if we collect it from the supermarket, there will be much more change. So that there will be the broker, middleman. So at the end, when the farmer will get the money, it's like the 3 yen and 15 yen. So they will get only 2 yen, but they are working very hard for the vegetables. So I think if we have the chance to buy local from local market, and on the other hand, there will be another advantage. We will get some fresh vegetables from the local farmer, but from the supermarket, which will be in the freezing, so the freshness and nutrient will be also be not the same. So I think there will be a huge difference of the prices between the local farmer market and the supermarket.
So this brings us to what I said all along, that sustainability is also financial independence. Okay, so giving more income to the local people is also part of our sustainable practice. So this brings us to one message. Our own behavior as consumers can also contribute towards the goal of sustainability. Our choice, where we want to buy, what we want to buy, how much price we want to pay, this will all contribute towards sustainability. Anyone who wants to add? Yeah.
I was going to say that for the discussion.
The previous one.
The previous one.
Okay.
I was going to say that the problem in Japan is like we're importing so much food.
Okay.
And we're not making our own food.
Okay.
Maybe 23% or something.
I see.
And so if something happens, like war or something, then we cannot get enough food.
Okay.
Then, and speaking about this.
This one, yes.
And like in Japan, like Japanese foods are expensive.
Okay.
We're importing so many vegetables and some fish from China, and it's cheaper.
Cheaper, yes.
And even if we buy local foods, it's still expensive.
Still expensive.
So that's the problem. But now the prices, I feel like the price is almost same, like imported foods from other countries and that.
Okay.
But now we start realizing the money, like it's different money.
Okay.
Like the imported food includes some money for like transporting
Okay.
like food.
I see your point. Okay.
So yeah, we should know the differences. But yeah.
Next time, next meeting, we'll talk about environmental ethics. We will touch on this topic again, and I will talk about how buying local products benefit community and sustainability. Okay, so we will talk more about that. Okay, anybody who wants to comment on this one? Okay, Ali?
Well, so all of them are touching the points. Another thing that in case of village market and supermarket, there is also a value addition of packaging, such as the quality. In packaging, such as in the farmer markets, meaning the village markets. This food is like as the field, just from picking up from the field and just selling from by the farmers or the local.
I think you're talking about food safety.
Actually, I'm talking about the when food comes to the supermarket and different chain.
Okay.
Or also, it's also adding the value due to packaging because of the quality.
Yes. But packaging is essential for food safety.
Yeah.
But what your point is maybe excessive packaging.
Yeah.
Japan is very famous for that. Too many packaging. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other point? Okay. Yes. One more before we go to the next.
My point is on the why sustainable agriculture is an issue now.
Okay.
I think one of the reasons is because now the concern for human health is very high, which has arisen because of the excessive usage of chemicals in the foods that we produce. So, because of that, these days, people want to eat safer foods. That's why sustainable agricultural practices such as organic farming has become a very important issue these days because everyone wants to eat foods that are healthy and safe.
I think it's the human instinct of survival.
Yes.
They want to survive, they want to have long life.
That's why everything is organically.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, let's move on. I have another very nice issue that I want you to talk about. Okay, today, here in Japan, we are a lot of robots, a lot of automation. Okay, this being introduced to food production systems, okay, in developed countries for various reasons. So I want to get your opinion. Is this robotics and automation, is this contributing towards the sustainability of food production? Is this contributing to sustainability as a whole? Okay, so robotics and automation. Instead of hiring people to work, we want robots to put. Okay? It's good, I think it's good. But how about, what is the impact on automation and robotics on the whole sustainable system that we have? Do you have any thoughts about this? Haken? Yes.
Since many people move from rural area to urban areas,
okay,
and urbanizations. So previously, more people are involved in agriculture, produces more foods compared now. So now, since the number of people who are involved in agriculture decrease, then this helps. Automation and robotics. Bringing new technologies to the agriculture.
Okay.
So it helps to produce more foods. Of course, it helps with the sustainable foods.
Okay. Okay. Good. Maybe in developed countries. Halima? Yeah.
Good point. You mentioned that if the robotic and automation is applied in order to increase the per unit production, per unit area production, then the robotic is effective for the sustainable agriculture. But if it's in the same per unit area production is the same, then robotic and automation is ineffective in agriculture.
Ineffective.
Yeah, because in most of the countries, globally thinking, employment is crucial for the community, for the social economy of the people.
Okay.
If we are replacing employees with the robotics,
correct.
these people need a livelihood,
yes.
Of course. But if, as I said, if it's contributing to the increase of the production, of course,
it's good.
In robotics is good.
So it's good in the sense that it increases the efficiency of production, but on the other hand, you talk about laborers who will lose their job. So what will happen to their livelihood? What happened to their sustainability? It can be affected. Thank you very much. Okay. Saki? Okay, Dozo.
This is positive thinking against introducing a robot.
Okay. Positive thinking. Okay.
Regarding the smart pesticide spraying, which is kind of automation and produced by a company, it can distinguish weeds from crops by using camera sensor and spray pesticide on only weeds. It makes it possible to weed fields by using sustainable methods and to preserve environment while ensuring the yield.
Okay, okay. But we should not forget the fact that robotics and automation also cost a lot of money. And it also costs a lot of money. So you need to have a big capital in order to do this one. Okay? And perhaps in many developing countries where you are from, this is still not practical. In Japan, it's practical. It's starting, yes, yeah. You go to the hotel, the robot will say, "Irashaimase." Yeah. So this is, so are we heading towards this direction? So, you know, it means a lot. Okay. Any other addition? Yeah. From okay.
The automation and robotics, of course, will However, it has also some negative things.
You agree with
already mentioned the unemployment and the people, the farmers, or some workers are becoming jobless because of interaction of robotics and automation. So of course, must need more money and also good management. So in case of this, and according to Time magazine, so in California, they introduced in farms automation and robotics. So it means there are a lot of farmers, so more than 3,000 farmers were jobless. And the cost almost same. So for the thinking of sustainability, so it should be more calculating in case of human and robotic, human and automation.
Correct.
So it should be a balance. For in a company or in industry, it should be balanced by the combination or integration of the robotics automation and the human.
I agree.
So that it can be productive and it may be a sustainable way of thinking.
Right. Because from the viewpoint of the businessman, it's all profit. So we need businessmen who have the thinking of sustainability. Now, not only profit is important, but also for the both benefit of the employees, benefit of farmers, and taking care of the environment. Okay, so I'm glad that this idea about the 3 angles of sustainability is coming to you already. Okay, now I will have another question. We still have a bit of time. Okay, this one is a little bit controversial. We know about genetically modified organisms. We know about biotechnology. Many companies are producing many biotechnology tools and use of genetically modified organisms. And do you think this development of biotechnology and genetically modified organism, GMO, can help achieve the goals of sustainable food production? I want to hear your thoughts about this. Okay? Yes, please.
Yes, in my personal opinion, I think it's the usage of biotechnology can really help to achieve sustainable agricultural production goals. For example, in pest management or in disease management, we talked of an integrated way of including the biological control. So one way we can use to control the pests might be to use the microorganisms that we can put them as to be an inherent part of our species of interest that can be used to control certain species. For example, there are GMO plants, BT cotton, BT that is made from Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a bacteria that helps to control some lepidopteran insects. So that way you reduce the usage of excessive usage of chemicals, but at the same time reducing the cost that you can use on the chemicals and all other strategies that you can use to control. So that way I think you are producing these crops sustainably.
Bacillus thuringiensis is a kind of bacteria that you introduce into the crop. And it can perform some biological control by killing some larvae of some harmful pests. Very, very important. But why do you think? Okay, now you apparently your view is you favor biotechnology. You favor GMO. Okay. How about you?
Actually, of course, GMO is the blessing for the agriculture, and it's a good dimension for providing the food in case of scarcity of food. And of course, we are concerned also about the health. How healthy or how safe the GMO. Some products have long-term effect of health, such as obesity, and also obesity of human, and of course some genetical effect, because GMO is the sudden changes of genetic code, and introduce some growth so that it can give a good growth or good yield. So by eating human, how healthy for the human, it should be also considered. If this is so, is it good, then we can promote it for sustainability. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. However, we read in the newspaper many times that there are also many people who are opposed to biotechnology, opposed to the GMO. And I think one explanation for that is, I may have mentioned this before, biopiracy. Biopiracy. Yes, it's good to produce this, but it's not good to just one company profit everything. This is, I think, one of the very hot issues going on now. Okay, any other thoughts about this? Yeah.
I just a few things that you mentioned about the benefits, but of course the GMO has I mean, so many, there are so many concerns about the cancer from the GMO, the grain production, and though it's contributing to the to feeding the world population.
Okay.
But in the long term, with the health issues, this is why people are considering about the organic agriculture.
Okay.
Because of the health concern, and also for the livelihood of the small farmers. If everything is controlled by the companies and corporations, so small farmers will have these opportunities to produce.
It will take away.
So both the pros and cons of the GMO.
Yes. Aside from biopiracy, the issue about patenting is also very sensitive. So just imagine if some product that you have been using for so many centuries suddenly has a patent. So the next time you use that product, you need to pay the license fee, and that's not acceptable to many people. So it boils down to ethical rules. Okay? And we will mention that in our next lecture next time. Anyone else about this? Okay.
Just to finalize this topic.
Yes.
GMO is good in terms of sustainable agriculture and sustainable food.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Yeah. But in terms of accepting to the environment and to the people, it's difficult to people accept. So many people reject the GMO.
Well, I think we also need to educate the people about
this.
This
is the most important.
So it's your job when you go back to your home country. You have to introduce and present both sides of the coin to your people so that they will understand. And when they understand, they can make a better decision. Okay. Any other comments? So I'll go to the last one here. And this one is very close to our heart in Japan. Okay. Aging agriculture is a concern. So today, the average age of farmer is increasing. Farmers are becoming older and older. So all the ochi-san, obatan, they have to do farming by themselves. But lucky in Japan, because you have a machine to do it. Eh? But in other countries, the technology is not so good. So there's more labor concern. So today, the farmers are becoming older and older. So here is a diagram. This is from Japan. This is Kyoto graphic. And here from 1985 to 2015, the number of farmers have dropped in Japan. And the average age of farmers in Japan from 1995, it was like this. It's now here in the 66 average age. So how should the government Okay, if the government is concerned, how should the government encourage the young people to consider working in agriculture? Okay, again, this is all related to sustainability. We said that if our number of farmers go down, if the number of farms go down, our production goes down, it will create unsustainable or instability. So, can you think of ways how government can encourage the young people and how to support the beginners in Japan? Do you know how?
In my case, in my opinion, I'm kind of majoring in agriculture, but I don't really want to be a farmer because I cannot. I don't see the perspective.
Okay. You have different plans.
I mean, I cannot imagine I can be rich or something.
You want to be rich.
Exactly. So we see many farmers who are really struggling,
working hard
all the time.
So in short, you don't like that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, how about you? How do you think the governments can help? I will ask other students also.
Well, now?
Yeah, now.
Now the Japan, he already mentioned that Japan import many kinds of food from other countries.
Okay.
But the Japanese farmers want to produce their production. But there are some price comparison between the Japanese production
and the foreign products.
Then normally other countries' production is cheaper than Japanese. So that maybe Japanese farmer cannot get so much money.
Well, one thing going on now is that many Japanese farmers receive some kind of support.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit subsidy. Yeah, in order to help them. Yeah, okay, that's one. And of course, we need to educate the people. Maybe encourage the young people. Hey, farming is also cool. Please become a farmer. Something like that. How about nobody thinks that way because there's so many things going on, right? Yeah. So we have to have a better image of farming in Japan as well as in other countries. Hakani?
Yes, actually, the young generation, they were thinking on the, like in my country, they were thinking on the profit or the money, financial
economic survival.
And if they become farmer, their income is too low compared to the go to other offices or companies they are working. So in this case, they obviously prefer to go and work in the office.
Okay. So how do you think the government can help? The government is supposed to be rich.
Yes, this is the point. If the government, provide some support, some subsidies, and then the income is somehow the same,
is higher,
or higher compared to that. Of course, the young generation, they will start encouraged to start work as a farmer.
Okay, do you have a problem like this in Bangladesh?
Yes, if we think that it's not about the profit only, the profit will come at last. The first point is when a farmer is in his childhood, he is seeing his father doing the working, but he is not become rich. So nowadays in our country, Bangladesh, no farmers want their children to be farmer. They want that I am giving you the money, you can go into the city, earn something and get a huge profit. But nowadays in our country, in Bangladesh, where you can see that in some places the profit is another important thing. Now comes the profit. That when they are getting the money, the agriculture or the fishery should be their second business. And in some places there was a time when there was a full of agricultural land. But right now they are saying that no, from the agriculture we are not getting so much money, but from the fisheries we are getting much more money. So what they do? They converted all the agricultural land to the fisheries because they are earning money within 3 months.
Correct.
They are getting earning money. Although this is not their main job, this is their second job. So in that case, government are trying to establish some subsidy for the agriculture also. But whenever there is profit, the people are getting profit within 3 months in fisheries. So why they are going to go for the agriculture for this type of work? So I think from the school level or from the undergraduate, the students need to know that only about the another sector job is not important. But without the farmer, one day if there is no farmer, yes, everything will be meaningless.
No more food.
And no more food. Yes.
So this brings us back to the triangle. Triangle is really very important. Okay. Yeah, one final thought.
Thank you. Actually, farming is not important for Japan also. This is a global thinking. So for maintaining a global thinking or encouraging the young people, a strong policy is necessary for maintaining a market price, or as they already mentioned, the subsidy. And what happened for the developing countries? In case of plenty of production, the price becomes lower. So farmers are affected. Drought, farmers are affected. Flood, farmers are affected. They are not rehabilitated. They are not supporting much. So a strong policy from the government can maintain or can encourage the young people that you have a certainty. You have your profit. You can get profit, and strong policy can encourage young people. Another thing, that still we are not so mechanized in case of agriculture farming, such as Japan. Japan is also mechanized and they are using automation like others. But in case of developing countries, it's still traditional. Correct. So there is thinking that young generation have a tendency to use or to use the mechanics thing, such as tools of agriculture. So they can involve in the mechanization of agriculture, such as agriculture machineries. It can reduce the labor, and the machine can do more. So they can utilize and they can be interested by using the machine and some predictable culture, such as disease resistant available facilities. So it should be stable and it can be viable and can be sustainable if it is maintaining the policy and also the mechanization.
So what is becoming clear now is that in order to achieve our sustainable goals, it's not only the farmer, it's not only the government, but it's all members of our society. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. Yes.
I think the government can help the local farmer to establish their own market to sell the vegetables. And I think this can attract the young people
to go into farming. Okay. So is that true in China? No. Still, many Chinese want to go abroad or go to the big cities. So this is a big issue now, not only in one country, but in many countries. Okay. So anyway, next time we will talk about environmental ethics, and we will examine how the different religions and the different cultures look at the environment and whether it's good or bad. So we will have another discussion like this. So we will expect another lively discussion, and that will be for next meeting. And then our final test will be on the February 7th. Okay, so thank you very much for all your inputs. Thank you very much.